Hi, I'm Jagat Sohail. I'm a doctoral candidate in the Department of Anthropology at Princeton University, and I'm a visiting researcher at the Max Planck Institute for the Study of Religious and Ethnic Diversity. In my research, I'm interested in the way in which refugees navigate processes of change and transformation as they look to establish themselves as participants in their new homes. So, how they negotiate between, on the one hand, expectations of state, economy, and bureaucracy, and their own desires and aspirations for their new lives on the other. Broadly speaking, I'm interested in the kind of moral, political, and economic subjects refugees become and represent in today's ever-increasingly displaced world. More specifically, since 2017, I conducted research on recently arrived asylum seekers and refugees in Berlin, in Germany. And I realized that my interlocutors were being required to change in fundamental ways. And these expectations came from the labor market, they came from the bureaucratic and legal infrastructures they were engaged in, they came from moral discourses about cultural integration that happened either at the national or the local level. And they also came from the practical requirements of everyday life in neighborhood and community contexts. And so I'm interested in how refugees navigate these competing expectations and the contradictions that emerge out of these competing expectations, and also how they embody and live in an everyday sense these projects of change and self-transformation. So, as a cultural anthropologist, the main research method that I use is ethnography, which in my case meant spending thousands of hours with my interlocutors over the course of about 2.5 years. And in the beginning, a lot of this research was also conducted in organizational spaces, so refugee camps, reception centers, pro-refugee organizations, and so on. But with the COVID-19 pandemic and the restrictions that placed on the possibilities of field research, a lot of my research shifted to personal conversations or small groups of friends. And I think there's something about that kind of focus at a personal and intimate level over the course of several years that really produces its own kind of significant insights. And so part of the way that my own research interests developed as I conducted my research has to do with the way ethnography like that forces you to confront the nuances of things like change in the everyday lives of the people that I was deeply invested in. So part of what you see when you look at practices of incorporation or integration, as the German state calls it, is the way in which, in a paradoxical sense, different modes of incorporation can actually work against or even undermine one another. So in my case, for my interlocutors, economic incorporation meant an entry into a highly segmented service economy, where they worked primarily alongside other employees that they shared cultural, linguistic, or ethnic identities with. And so as it turns out, ethnic boundaries are actually quite useful if the goal is to put refugees to work. But simultaneously, these economic processes, of course, sharpen the precise boundaries that a project of cultural integration might look to soften. And so these contradictions and nuances are, I think, essential to comprehend if at all we are to look at incorporation as a tool that helps us negotiate with the ever-increasing diversity in global cities in Germany and beyond.